Alright, sige. This is one of the first ever kanang mga sync sessions that I'm ever going to do for a class. So, ingan itong buhaton na, I'm just gonna explain to you guys kanang the basics lang of business. Nana si Mark. The basics of business enterprise simulation. And then, I'm gonna give you your initial instructions. First of all, I don't know if you guys can hear the noise that's coming from the background. Kana bitong construction noise from next door. Sorry, good guy. There's nothing really I can do about that. Kasi that's a government project. Uh, Nevertheless, after this session, kanang there are some instructions that I'm going to give. Pero initial instructions pa sila. So hopefully, buhat lang nato. This won't take long. I hope. Unless, of course, there will be instructions. Now, I understand that a lot of the things I am going to say are very kanang murag BES is a complicated thing. Okay, it's a long, complicated, semester long thing. Okay, so I'm going to start with the basics lang sa. I'm going to start with the instructions. Just like what I did with research. I'm going to start with the basics. I'm going to start with the instructions. And then, hinay-hinayon na to handun sa mahuman siya for the rest of the semester, right? So I really hope you can all see the screen. Can you all see the screen? Can somebody please verify that you can see kanang the slides na karon? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, sige. What you should be seeing right now is... Thank you, everyone. What you should be seeing right now is ang ang main page lugar, Business Enterprise Simulation. So, this is the name of the subject that we had. Just like what I said last week, no, during our orientation, Business Enterprise Simulation and Work Immersion are supposed to be subjects that are like kind of bitang replaceable. So in other words, if we're having work immersion, we don't need to have business enterprise simulation. And if we have business enterprise simulation, we don't need to have work immersion. During the previous years, I've always opted for work immersion. Kasi, as I will explain karon, I will make you understand nga nung I've always opted for work immersion. Pero, you know, the conditions of this school year has made it very, very difficult for us to do work immersion. Daghan ko mahatag na stories sa inyo of me approaching companies this year, me approaching companies or emailing or calling or contacting companies na, ma'am or sir, pwede ba mag-work immersion kung students diha? I have a total of 36, kasi 22 in your case and then 14 sa Pueblo. I have a total of 36 students this school year. Pwede ba kami mag-work immersion? And then, the work that they proposed me will either force you to go to their workplace, which of course I do not want kasi I do not want you traveling at all during during this semester. At the same time, a lot of them said na, sige, I'm going to let your students work here with us and then stay at home lang ilang work. Then pagtanaw lang pud na ako sa ilang stay at home na work, it's not something that a student can manage. Like, kanang ipasulat mo daghan ng mga reports, mura na mo nag-eskwela or mura na gyapon mo nagsulat og papel. So I had to say no lang gid gihapon. Eventually nahurot na akong listahan of people that I can approach for work immersion. So I had to decide or had to think, okay, wala i-choice, business enterprise simulation na lang gid ta. All right. Well, unfortunately, COVID makes that a thing. Pero one good thing lang po about business enterprise simulation is it is at least easier to manage compared sa work immersion. Kasi sa work immersion, manggod your whole class schedule will have to be tailor fit for that. For example, kung ipareport mo sa company at the morning, like 8 to 12, then all of your other classes will have to be moved to the afternoon. All of them. Para lang ma-accommodate ang work immersion. Things like that. Complications. At least business enterprise simulation is a subject within Corpus Christi School lang, so it won't be hard for us to do it compared lugar sa work immersion. And di na ta kinanglan mo gasto. Wala na additional payments sa kinanglan for business enterprise simulation. So, right, there you are. So, first, as I mentioned kanina, di ba, Business Enterprise Simulation is the 9th specialized subject in accountancy, business, and management. Its main objective is the creation of the business plan, better known as the feasibility study. So, kung ihapon nato ang tanan-tanan ninyo mga specialized subjects, unsay pinakauna ninyo mga specialized, for a bit of recitation lang. Unsa ka na pinakauna yung na specialized subject? Grade 11 mo? Pinakauna?
BMath.
Math.
Orgman.
Thank you, Mark. Unsay next? Orgman. Thank you. Grade 11 second sem. Isa lang to kabo.
Fab M, sir.
Fab
Which,
M.
which Fab M?
Fab M1.
Fab M1. Thank you. Okay. So, tulo na to. Tulo na. Last semester, you had 3.
Fab
Fab M2.
Fab M2.
BFin.
You had 3. Okay. Fab M2,
B-Marketing.
BFin, and B Marketing. So, 9 na sila. Okay? So, 6 na sila. This semester, you have 3. Okay, tangtango na nato ang BES. Kay, of course, muna itong istoryahan ka ron. You have 2 specialized subjects. Ano sila?
Entrep.
Beth and actually NTREP is an applied subject.
Apicon.
Apicon, yes. I understand I understand the confusion. Some think that research is a specialized subject just because an ABM teacher is teaching it. Actually, no. Something that it's a specialized subject. Actually, it's just an applied subject ang research. Alright? Ang NTREP, despite it being business-related, is actually just an applied subject. So, ang specialized subjects niyo for this semester is Apicon and BEF. So, those are your 9. Okay? Those are your 9. Now, the lessons that you have learned, or you will learn, including the lessons that you will learn with BEF and Apicon, will all be culminated into this one subject, which is business enterprise simulation. If you combine all of the lessons that you learned with all of those subjects, it results to the feasibility study. Okay? So, we'll talk about the feasibility study in a while. Pero again, going back, supposed to be mang good work immersion ni. In the sense na it will be your 9th specialized subject. So, for technical reasons, let me just say na for technical reasons, if in case you're wondering you have ka ng siblings before, makita ninyo sa inyong card, if you look at the cards or the records of your siblings before or Corpus Christians before sa ABM, ang pinaka-last nilang subject nakabulit lang dito work immersion. Kamo sa card and sa inyong transcript of records, you will not have work immersion. What you will have is business enterprise simulation. Alright? Okay lang na. It's the same thing. You will graduate nevertheless. Question so far? Question so far?
None, sir.
Sige. Going once. Going twice. Let's look at the chat. Basi may questions. Wala. Thank you for your answers. So, going once, going twice, wala. Alright. Sige. Next slide. So, feasibility study, di ba? Ang pinaka-root word niya is the word feasible. I know that you already know what this means kasi this is something that we business teachers and of course in business we love using the word feasible. So, what does it mean? Feasible, or the act of, or rather the status of being feasible, it means the possibility of doing something easily and conveniently. That is a definition I took from Oxford sa internet. So, there's a difference between saying something is feasible and saying something is possible. Okay? When you say something is possible, it can be done. It's not impossible. It's not, mahimo siya, mahitabo siya. But when you say something is feasible, there are 2 conditions for it. I'd rather, butang na 3 conditions for it. Number 1, is it possible? Number 2, is it easy, convenient, and doable? And number 3, is it worth it? Okay? Feasibility is something that is usually used. The word feasibility is something that is usually used when it comes to things that involve money, things that involve resources like businesses, government projects, etc. Say for example, if you ask for example na can we make a new bridge, okay? Can we make a new overpass that runs between, let's say, a highway, okay? If you ask, possible ba siya? In most cases, it's usually possible. I mean, building a bridge is possible in the sense na we will have money for it, we will have manpower for it, etc. So, it's possible. Pero, it's a different question entirely when you ask, is it feasible? Kasi, again, as I said kanina, feasibility does not only mean possible, it also means easy or doable, and it also means worth it. Okay? So, it may be possible to build a bridge. Pero you have to ask yourself, can we actually do that? Is it actually easy or doable? Kasi remember, if you do a bridge, ang daming masasagasaang other projects, ang daming masasagasaang tao. In the sense na, you do a bridge, grabe ka traffic, and the traffic in that particular highway will affect all other highways in general. So, that can happen. At the same time, you may be building a bridge at a highway that nobody actually uses all that much. So, it's not worth it. So, in other words, something may be something may be possible but not necessarily feasible. In terms of business, ingana jud gihapon, there are many products that are possible to do but are not necessarily feasible. They're not feasible for many reasons, such as maybe nobody's going to buy them. Nobody's going to buy them. Like when you say, for example, adobo flavored ice cream. Think of that for a moment. Adobo flavored ice cream. So, like, is it possible? Yes, it is. Is it feasible? Are people going to actually buy that? And at the same time, ang cost pag yun sa adobo, then you have to freeze that and then you have to sell that at a very competitive price. It may not be worth it. Okay? So, that is a feasibility study. Essentially, we're trying to figure out if a project, if an idea is feasible. Is it possible? Is it something that is doable and easy and convenient? And is it worth it? Or in other words, in business, is it going to be profitable? Alright? So, just like what you see on the screen, a feasibility study is an analysis that takes all of our project's relevant factors into account, including economic, technical, legal, and scheduling considerations to ascertain the likelihood of completing the project successfully. That is a definition I took from Investopedia.com. So, again it is an analysis. In other words, it's a paper. Okay, it's a paper that takes all of a project's factors. Daghan na siya nga factors. That it doesn't mean operational factors lang. It doesn't mean economic factors lang. It can also look at technological factors, legal factors, time factors to again figure out, is it possible? Is it easier, convenient? And is it profitable? Kasi I'm sure a lot of you have many cool business ideas. Ng mga, itawag na to sometimes mga passion projects. Pero if you look at it, it's a nice hobby, pero it's not necessarily a good business kasi it's not profitable. And there are so many like things in the world na ingana. So a feasibility study looks at a possible idea and then figures out, is this possible? Is this profitable? Is this going to be worth it? Okay? So again, a feasibility study is a paper. Question so far? Na-chat diri si Marco. Sinabawang cookies and cream. Uy. Unless of course you're talking about kanang nalanay nga cookies and cream nga ice cream, which in fairness is lamig gihapon in fairness. Pero I don't think people are going to buy that. Question so far? Going once?
None, sir.
Thank you, Nanami. Going once, going twice. Alright. Sige. So, again in layman's terms, a business feasibility study is the planning and creation of an original business and studying the possibility of it being profitable or not. Okay? Is it going to be profitable? Let me just state lang guys actually, the feasibility study is not only a paper that you're going to be doing here sa BES. For those of you who are going to take a business course later on, kasi diba, as I mentioned before, not all of you are going to take business courses. Some of you are going to go to engineering, some nursing, etc., which is not a bad thing. Nevertheless, if you are going to take a business course later on, especially if you're going to take something like business management, business administration, major in marketing, things like that, you are inevitably going to do a feasibility study, okay? Naani sa college. Especially when you get to, I think, in most cases, you're going to have this as your final product or your final project pag abot sa third year. Okay? The year right before you graduate. And then pag abot nyo sa fourth year, not only are you, murag the paper that you wrote sa inyong third year, you're actually going to implement pag abot sa fourth year. Okay? When I say implement, whatever it is you proposed sa third year, you're actually going to sell that pag abot sa fourth year. So, to give you an example, to give you a few examples, like off the top of my head, mga products that I've seen in the past, things like kanang mga, kanang mga specialized flavors of cookies. Nakatilaw na ko and nakakita na ko feasibility study wherein they tried to make cookies based on popular sandwich spreads. Can you imagine, class, ka ng tuna spread cookies or cheese spread? Karami itong mga spread ka nang ginapalit sa Lady's Choice, ng tuna spread or homemade. Tuna spread cookies or cheese spread cookies or chicken spread cookies na yung mga ingana. The feasibility study I had when I graduated from college was actually self-defense spray, pepper spray. Kanang what we did was we kanang created or manufactured kanang our own formula of pepper spray or self-defense spray. We took peppers and then gipahalang sila and then gibottle sila in pressurized containers and then gibaligyan na mo pagabot sa fourth year. Alright? So you're going to have this later on in college. Admittedly though, the one that you have in college is much harder, of course, than what we're going to ask of you here. Okay, so feasibility study. So next slide, as you can see here, the feasibility study is normally lengthy and complicated. But the FS that we're going to do for BES will fit the need for distance education. So naturally, if this was like kanang the regular school year, mas taas pa and mas complicated pa yung FS. Pero I had to cut a few parts down to make it so na mahuman ni siya for this semester. And of course, in terms of the understanding distance education bayani, and it's so hard to communicate between group members because of distance education. So I had all of those other considerations when I crafted the plan. At the same time, normally the FS has both the planning and implementation stage. In other words, supposed to be whatever product you propose or company you plan to build sa inyong planning, I will have you do that pag-abot sa implementation. The implementation, unfortunately, we're not going to have time and the resources for it. So, sa FS nato for BES, planning natataman. Okay? That doesn't mean, of course, that I am going to ask you to do or that you have to do an FS or a proposal that is impossible in nature. Dili, dapat possible yun hapon siya. But we're not going to actually have to do it na. Okay? Question so far? Going
None, sir.
Thank you sa pagtubag.
Sir.
Going once, going twice. Alright. Just so you know po the reason na, kasi, some of you may be like, of course, pag nakaplano na mo and excited na mo sa inyong plans and everything, but since some of you like, tachada, siguro ni kung amoy ibaligyan, tami. There are many reasons why not. Safety is one of them. Cost is the other. Okay? Murag paper na lang tataman para din naman mag-invest sa inyong tinuod na kwarta para mamaligyan tinud-anay, things like that. So, next would be here. So, something that you need to know for BES, because BES is your culminating subject for this, for ABM, alright? It is heavily integrated with other ABM subjects, namely, of course, APECON, NTREP, and BEF. Kasi when I said kanina, the FS is actually a paper. It's essentially a paper. I know na daghan kayo sa inyong mga, even though di na ako makita inyong mga naong karon sa screen. I've been a teacher for many years na, and I know na when I say it's going to be a paper, usually mga students kayo mangluray ng mga mata, then they'd be like, kaboyan ni oy. Just so you know even though the FS rather is a paper, it is integrated with APECON, NTEP, and BEF. During the previous years, ga-immersion ang mga students. At the same time, they have a paper in APECON, they have a paper in NTEP, and they have a paper in BEF. And of course, your Respro and things like that. Pero for this school year, actually, ang buhaton namo is isa lang. Okay? It's just a feasibility study lang. The parts of the feasibility study will already have parts of it which include APECON, NTREP, and BEF. So in other words, once upon a time, daghan kayo mag papers buhaton. Karon ang buhaton na lang din yun is ang Respro, of course, ang research ninyo, that's a different thing entirely. Ang Respro ninyo and ang feasibility study. Although APECON, NTREP, and BEF may still give you some smaller PTs pag yun, which is, entirely possible, they're not going to ask you to create or write individual other papers na. The parts of the FS will already have parts of it which involve economics, which involve entrepreneurship, and which involve ethics. Okay? So, the four subjects, as written here, the four subjects, instead of asking for individual PPs, will grade components of the feasibility study instead. So, instead of having, again, many papers, it's just one paper. Admittedly, one kind of long paper. One other advantage of doing this is, of course, sa BES, I'm going to give you most of the periods sa BES in, in creating the paper, in meeting with each other, in writing the paper, etc. But because I have all of these other subjects helping me, Sir Kyle from Apicon, I also have, sige, entrepreneur niyo, si Sir Isaiah, right? Sakto ba? Is it Sir Isaiah inyong entrep?
Sir Burns, sir.
Sir Burns. Sir Burns sa inyong sorry. And then ang ethics sa inyo, si Sir Burns gapon, right? Sakto ba? Ethics?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. So, because I have all of these subjects, or rather, like, I have the help of all of these subjects, Apicon, Entrep, and Beth, whatever time they also give for your PT can also go into one paper lang. So later on, at the end of the quarter, murag manotice ninyo nga murag taga na makay murag talagsa na lang ang klase ga kahitabo because like all of us are already giving you time for you to be able to do your best. Your best, your FS. Okay? So that's another advantage of it. So, wait lang ha. I-adjust na ako akong mag-present reviews ako particularly. So this is, wait. So, nada diri. Now, this is your business enterprise simulation kanang parts, alright? So, ang first is the business structure. So, I'm just gonna give you an overview of like what they are ha. Business structure is the part of the FS wherein you describe your business, you describe your layout, you give it a name, you assign yourselves to the different ranks of the different departments, the different ranks, kung kinsay kanang manager sa inyo, kung kinsay marketing head, kinsay operations, things like that, okay? At the same time, it also contains your mission and vision, okay? And yeah, that the background of the business, your business structure, the part 1. Part 2, business economics impact. That is the part which involves your Apicon, your applied economics subject. The business economic impact takes your business and then tries to figure out what is its impact to the economy, both in the immediate vicinity of it, the immediate economy, at the same time the bigger national or maybe citywide economy. Okay, so unsa ang effect sa inyong business to the economy of the of the society around you. This is going to be discussed to you, of course, by Sir Kyle, especially later sa Apicon. Next is your code of ethics. Naturally, as you will learn later on sa inyong ethics na subject, a business, the goal of a business is not necessarily just for profit purposes. Monetary profit purposes. It's for all kinds of profit. When I say all kinds of profit, it is profit in terms of people, profit in terms of humanity, profit in terms of being able to help people by giving them a product that they actually need. It's profit in terms of being able to help families by giving somebody a job so that they can feed and put people to school, things like that. All kinds of profit. You will learn that in ethics, and so for you to be able to do that, you're going to have to create a code of ethics. Let's call it rules for you to be able to the rules that you need to follow for you to be able to do your business properly. Okay, like for example, we will not steal, we will not scam our customers, we will not things like that. Okay, these will be discussed to you by servers. Okay, so this is the part which involves ethics. Part 4, environmental analysis. Pestle and SWOT. Yes, this is the exact same pestle and SWOT that you already dealt with pag-abot sa inyong market, back in marketing. It's not different actually. So, you don't, I expect that you don't have to be taught much as to how to do this kasi you already did it sa inyong marketing. Congrats by the way sa inyong sa inyong defense back then. Again, very very proud of all of you for that. So, this is the part which involves entrep. Kasi you're going to take your business concept, your business idea, and then you're going to look at political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal trends surrounding your chosen product, and then of course conduct a SWOT analysis. What is your company's or the product's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, things like that. So again, this involves entrep. So parts 1 to 4 are for midterm. Even though they look taas na gining midterm nga part, actually each part of that is not that, I mean, kind of long, but it's not that long. I think ang pinakataas ng nga part ana would be the environmental analysis nga part, which is ang PESTEL and ang SWOT. Ang final term na part is admittedly the one that's a bit long. Kasi ang marketing mix, as you already know, involves the 7 P's of marketing as you were already taught back during your marketing subject, and then your operational plan. Your operational plan already involves you giving the step-by-step things. For example, ang schedule as to how you're going to create your business, and then you're going to calculate for your break-even points. In other words, kanang like, how many units of your product do you have to sell for you to be able to break even sa inyong initial investment, things like that. Other things sa operational plan would include the step-by-step instructions as to how to create your product, things like that. Okay, so that is for final term. So our marketing plan and operational plan, even though duha lang na sila ka parts, they're actually quite long and I have a lot of subparts. Pero we'll get there, and I'm sure you'll be able to manage it. And again, all of these have already been, are going to be cut and tailor-made for distance education. So, even though taas sila and lisod sila, it's not going to be overwhelmingly taas. Question so far? Guys, question so far?
None, sir.
None, sir.
Sige, thank you. Alright. Next, grading. Sa inyong BES. BES will not have a midterm grade. Okay, mag-ingon lang ko daan. Some of you may have already heard that or known that during the last week's orientation. But I'm gonna say it again. BES does not have a midterm grade. Kasi, BES will only primarily look at the final product. In other words, the final feasibility study paper. Okay, so I'm only going to grade primarily one thing lang, the feasibility study. That is why, of course, the feasibility study is not going to be over until the final term pa. So therefore, isa lang kagrado ko ihatag sa inyo. So makita ninyo, sa card ninyo, this coming midterm, you will not have a BES there. Oh, by the way, the same thing goes for ResPro ha, because the ResPro only looks at the final paper na for this, after all of the data gathering is done, because it's only going to look at the final paper. ResPro is also not going to have a midterm grade. So, you expect them to either be blank or not at all present in your card. However, pag sa inyong final term ka card, sa inyong final card yun, makita ninyo ang BES and ang ResPro, then you will get your final grade there. So, ang grading system, to put it simply, ang grading system sa BES will be 25% consultations and attendance, which we will start doing by the end of this week. And then, of course, your feasibility study paper, which is going to be submitted. Ang pinaka-final form of this feasibility study paper is going to be submitted at the end of the school year na. So, status of the defense, as written there, is still unknown and will be announced later. I honestly do not know, pa class, if we're going to have a defense for this subject. Ang reason for that is, I have to gauge the other subjects as to what they're doing. Because I know, again I know manggod nga, this subject, even though it's easy brain-wise, daghan di siya buhaton nun. Media Lit, I know, has some kanang end-of-year requirements. Con Arts has a lot of heavy end-of-year requirements. By the way, Media Lit and Con Arts are rather fun in their own way. Ha? So, even though na sila end-of-year requirements, I hope you're gonna have fun there. At the same time, of course, research needs to have a defense. Lisod kayang research kung walay peer review. So, kana. because of that, I do not know pa if we're going to be able to squeeze defense. I cannot announce it pa. It needs a lot of planning. Nevertheless, by the end of midterm or by the beginning of final term, I will be able to announce sa inyo na if mag-defense ang BES or wala. Okay? I cannot answer that pa karon. Understood? First step, I need you to talk with your group and conceptualize an original product or service. Okay? Think about a product or a service na. So, what is the product and service going to be? In this time class ha, let me clarify. This time it's not a make-believe product. It's not kanang I'm not knocking on your previous PTs pero it's not a product wherein kanang you are the tourism expert of so and so country, or that you are the kanang, let's call it kanang imaginary entrepreneurs from an imaginary company. Dili. Okay? You're going to think of your own experiences and your own situation in life, your own location, real situation, real experiences, real location. And then you're going to think of unsa nga negosyo kaha ang pwede. Alright? Unsa nga negosyo kaha ang pwede buhaton. So, the product and the product must, or the service, by the way, let me stress that it can be a product or it can be a service. Right? The product or the service must be something that can be conducted during this pandemic and is possible with the tools available to you. Alright? So in other words, if your product is some sort of ice cream, I really hope na mo'y ref sa balay which can handle the stock. If it's going to be some sort of meat processing, I don't know kung na mo'y mga slicer or mga grinder needed. If it's going to be a cake, I hope you have the ovens and the ingredients, or even the availability of ingredients na like available to you. I really hope so. So, if it's going to be a service, do you have the right equipment for it? Do you have the stock, or rather the connections for something like that? So, think of what you can possibly do, and then think of this product, alright? Think of the product lang sa, kasi part of the study later on is going to be how much ang iyang price, kang kinsa ninyo ibaligya. That can wait a little while longer. Oh yeah, I noticed, Kurt, I noticed. So, the price, target market, things like that, that can wait a while longer. You don't have to be so detailed ana nga parts. Just, off the top of your head lang, murag think of, murag tentative price, siguro mga 40 pesos siguro ni, gusto na ako ni baligya sa mga estudyante, or mga fellow students, or mga silingan, things like that. Pero it doesn't have to be super complicated pa, doesn't have to be super detailed, but just initial ideas lang. And then of course, create an original business company name. Okay? Hopefully the name is something that is, something that's, hopefully kanang something that represents the identity of your company. As you learned already sa marketing, the company name is also an important part of the company's brand. So, think of a company name. So, kana. Questions? Questions?
Sir.
Sige. For today, I am going to leave the rest of the time to you guys para maka... By the way, you already saw, di ba, you already saw the module this morning. Have you already seen the module this morning?
Yes, sir.
Sige.
Sir.
I want you to read the module this morning. It contains kanang two links. So, sorry, it contains data in the sense na nakabutang dito, first of all, your groupings for your BES, your the special kanang rooms created for you for your groups sa BES. Kasi I noticed na it was a good, so far it's a good thing di ay nga naghatag kong rooms for your rest pro kay murag namoy adtuan for just your group lang if in case you need to meet somewhere, imbis nga maghimo-himo pa mo kay kaugalingon yung Google Meet, at least naanay available sa inyo. So I did that for BES na lang po. Soon your other ABM teachers are going to have access to that consultation room po kasi all of us are involved with the feasibility study. So they will be able to come input later. I hope nakatry na mo. Nakatry na ba mo, class? Is anyone having problems entering their group room? You will know that you are having problems entering your group room if musulod mo and you require ka ng permission. Kung pangayuan pa mag-permission, like for example, mag-ingon mo na, please wait for the host to let you in or something. Then something's wrong with the email or my settings or the email you gave or something. Is everybody, nakatry na mo tanan? Wala pa? I am guessing wala pa. Okay, sige. And then of course, as you saw sa inyong module pod, nakabutang ko dito, ibutang na ko ang repository of the links for consultations that we're going to do later on. Kana. Ano pa ba? Yeah. So, as I said sa inyong module, spend the time tomorrow thinking about it, especially sa morning, thinking about it. Unsa nga product? You think about it, tanaw niyo sa inyong schedule. Okay, best karon. Supposed to be. Then you just spend the 50 minutes lying in bed. Hopefully you don't fall asleep. Pero spend the next few minutes lying in bed or like sitting in a chair thinking about unsa nga product ang Shada. I wanna give so many suggestions kung unsa nga product or service ang pwede. I wanna give suggestions pero from my experience with you sa research, ang suggestions nga gagawas sa ako is mainly also the proposals that you give. Like for example, murag daghan kayo gihatag nga suggestions nga related to population, related to is this feasible, is this possible, and mura pod nang nanggawa sa inyong mga research topic. This time, I don't want to do that. I don't want to accidentally limit your ideas by giving you suggestions. Pugong na lang sa agid ko. Di lang sa mo hatag suggestion kay para mo gawas yun ang creativity ninyo. So, tomorrow afternoon then, I will check your attendance. Remember, graded ang attendance. I'm going to check your attendance sa Google Meet. And then, I'm going to check your attendance sa Google Meet. And then, I'm going to start talking to the groups na start asking, Ben, ano may nakuna-kuna? And then you decide on just one product lang you meet. Hopefully, mahumana mo sa inyong decision soon para makastart na mo sa next part. Okay? And then, for Wednesday and Friday, you have modules tayo, asynchronous. Then, pag-abot tayo sa afternoon, consultations gihapon, as you have already seen sa inyong schedule. Questions?
None, sir.
Nine, sir.
O sige, that's that for this session.